Well, hello chaps and chappets, and welcome to my monthly blog for the casual gamer, or whatever you want to call it. Did I just... I can't see you. I can't see you, but you can see me, and oh, that's a big disgusting mark on my... that's better. So yeah, my monthly blog of games that I played, and as you may notice, this video has come out on the 19th of December instead of the end of December, or maybe in January. It's because I wanted to get this out early before Christmas, because there will probably be a lot of games that I'll play over the Christmas period and New Year period, and I'll probably do a separate video for those. But anyway, if you've never been to one of these videos before, this video is basically me recapping the games I've played, giving a little bit of a rules overview, pointing out the good things, bad things, experiences that I had with different types of players that I played with, and give you a general overview of games as kind of like advice. And yeah, don't take me as the be all and end all of everything. Always listen to other reviewers and just mash all those thoughts and ideas together to give yourself a good general overview of what a game is before you spend your money on filling a shelf somewhere. So if you don't like listening to my voice and watching me talk like this, there is my BGG blog where I've actually written some notes and some things about these games that I've played as well. Or if you don't like reading and you're on my BGG blog, you can look at this video and listen to me go blah 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 blah. So without more ado, let's go over to the screen over here, and you will see all the games that I've played so far over the course of December and how many times I've played. And I'm just going to go into each of them in the order that they are there and talk about them and kind of, you know, give you my impressions. Some of these games I've played a few times. Some of these games I've played a lot of times. Have my opinions changed over these times? Is this game still a good game that I want to keep forever and ever? Or was it a game that I want to get rid of because it's getting to that point where it's just not doing it anymore? Or there's something better which is going to probably replace it? So let's have a look at the first game, which is Foundations of Rome. So as you can see, I've played this game 7 times. I've actually played it twice this month, once with my 7-year-old who picked up the rules quite easily, and the second time was with a group of friends. And I still rate this game very high as a 9 out of 10 because of its simplicity. Because of its components, because this is like a deluxeified, expensive version of the game. There is a cheaper version of this game which will let you have the same kind of experience called Foundations of Metropolis, sorry. So as you can see, there are these really big chunky playing pieces that you're going to be putting onto this board, which players are going to be fighting over the areas of the board so they can build these buildings. Each building does its own thing. It'll either have some population, or it'll give you some money, or it will score points off of the other buildings that it's attached to. Now there's a real deep strategy in this game, which is basically made up of 3 choices. You either buy a plot of land if you've got the money and you've got a worker to go into that space to reserve that plot of land. You either go to the bank and get some money, which can vary depending on how many currency buildings you have on the board, and then thirdly, you can just replace your workers on the main board with buildings if they fit the space, kind of Tetris style. And that's what makes this game work. It's simplicity in its rules, but the complexity of what should you do on your turn. Yeah, you got 3 choices, which is a lot better than a lot of games which have like you got 20 choices of things that you can do, kind of Agricola thing. But you know, each decision does feel like those 20 choices because you got to do the forward planning. Do I really want that space, or should I build now because I want to get lots of money on my next turn when I go and do a banking phase, or should I not put any buildings on the board yet because I don't want to give away too many points to other players? A truly fantastic game which I think I'm going to keep forever and ever, and I'm going to enjoy forever and ever because of those things. That's Foundations of Rome. So next up we have the 7th Citadel, which I only played yesterday and had quite a bad experience. But as you can see, it's a 9 out of 10, which is a game that I highly recommend. And I've played it 22 times, which are about an hour or 2 hour session per game, because this game is broken down to chapters. This is a kind of role-playing game, choose your own adventure game, where you are discovering the world and you're discovering the rules. I've spoken about this game a lot. You can find a big first impressions video somewhere, but I'm just going to talk about the impression that I had playing solo the other day, and that was, yeah, the chapter that I played gave me clues of what I needed to do and how to succeed and what to look out for at the end of the chapter, but it didn't tell me everything, and I fell into a big kind of hole, and I came out at the end, at the epilogue, hurting very badly. It punished me because there were like 3 different endings to this chapter. So if I'd done this, you get this. If you did this, you get this. And if you did this, you get this. And it was frustrating. The game itself was, it was a breeze. I was like, I know the game now. I know it pretty well. It's pretty fluid. I'm trying to slow myself down so I can read slower, to look at each single word of text and take clues from it, because it's very important. Everything is so meticulously crammed together that you really need to analyze everything about this game, from the artwork to the words and to what's just happened. And I think that's what the game is going for. It's going for this, well, we did tell you, and boom, this has happened. This is your punishment for that. Or it's a case of, maybe you should have been a bit more cautious when you did that, and you get punished for it. But I'm also having that kind of feeling of like this story of it, with all its chapters, is going to go so drastically wrong that the only way to have a good time with it is to have to replay it, remembering that you need this and you need to do that and you need to do the other, which has got me a bit scared at the moment, because if that's the only way for you to enjoy a game, is to play 20 hours and then do everything wrong and then go, okay, that's not how you play it. If you're going to play it for a couple of hours and play it wrong and go, okay, right, this is how I need to play it, not too bad. But I'm like in the 4th chapter, so an hour a chapter, that's 4 hours plus, because some of these chapters are a bit more deep, or you might just like veer off the path a little bit and do something completely different, which is nothing to do with the story, but it will gain you experience that you can then use to upgrade your village or upgrade your character. That's all well and good, but then there's this kick in the balls. Hopefully the game won't do that to me when I get through the next couple of chapters, and I won't be constantly being punched in the face and put down to a level where I feel that this game just really is broken, or I'm broken and I'm missing something. And again, I don't want to have that, I'm missing that and I've wasted all these hours trudging through. Yeah, that's something that I could cope with the 7th continent, because you would do 2 steps and then die and then go back to the beginning and play again, and then you do 5 steps because you've learned from those 2 steps, and then you die, and it's like, and then you get a bit further each time, and then you get to a point where you can manage the world and survive forever. But this, I'm a bit worried, but we'll see how it goes, and I'll keep you posted. That's the 7th Citadel. Next we have a new game, so this is a first impressions of a game that was sent to me by the publisher, Charles Ward, as you can see, and it's Banana Boy vs Uni-Cone. Okay, this is a memory game for families, which involves like the rules for memory. So you have a deck of cards, and they're double-sided cards with these big, beautiful artwork, childlike artwork on them. And you spread them on the table, and then you're going to pick 2 of those cards, and for fun, you call out the name of what you see on the card. So it could be Banana Boy, or it could be Unicycle, or whatever. And that is kind of fun, calling out these weird names. My son is learning English at the same time, so we're kind of like cross. We're doing franglais basically with things. So after you've picked 2 cards and pointed to them, you turn them over. If they match, if the image matches on the other side, you win those 2 cards. If the kind of the art family matches, so like a screwdriver and electric drill, because they're the same family, they have the same color background, you win one of those cards. Now I will say I do like games like this where it's memory, but it's twisted, and in this case it's twisted because you have to remember what's this card the other side of the other card, like the game Nut Job or Le Bois de Couteau in French, where you're trying to remember the color or the shape on the other side of the card and you're trying to call it out. And this is the same kind of thing. You're trying to remember, okay, right, the 2 octopus legs are there and they're not revealed, and so I'm going to call out a submarine rocket and then flip them over and hopefully win both of those cards instead of just one. It's kind of fun and it's kind of frustrating at the same time, because there are those moments where nobody's finding anything and the game just seems to drag. But when you start planning out and your memory does start to kick in of like, oh, I remember there's a panda over here, and I know that I've just seen a panda over there, so all I've got to do is flip that panda back down, and then on my next turn flip that card with that card, and hopefully the 2 pandas reveal. There's not much more to say at the moment, but it does feel like it could be a good family game. I only played with my 7-year-old. Probably a bit more interesting with 4 players, and then the cards changing a lot, and then you've got more time to sit back and watch what other players are doing, and then memorize that the back of that panda is a sausage and the back of that ice cream is a unicorn. So yeah, it's not too bad at the moment. I haven't rated it. It's going to need a few more plays before I decide if it's a game that I want to play regularly, not so regularly, or not at all. That is Banana Boy vs Uni-Cone. Next up is Boca, which I've played in a total of 5 times. I played once already, but only with my 7-year-old, as we did it to pass the time. It's really a party game for 4 or more players, where you are trying to build Tetris style in couples as quick as possible to get the most points. So the box is the board, and you put a card in the box which stands up, and it's double-sided, and that's what you can see on your side and your opponent sees on the other side. And then you have these big 3D wooden blocks which you then got to cooperatively work together and say, no, I can't see any green, I can see black though, and you build up. And so when you look directly at it, it represents the colors on the kind of the grid picture that is there. And as I said, this is more of a party style game where you're going to play with a group of people, and then you're going to pair up with each person and then time it, and every time has a different score value, and then you collect that score value, and then at the end of the game, once everyone's played everyone, maybe once or twice, you're going to see who's got the biggest score to see who wins. As I said, I played this with my 7-year-old just as something to pass the time, and it was an enjoyable experience. He is quite switched on, and he was able to create his side quite easily, and we were able to communicate and talk in French and English about what we can see and what we couldn't see. And there was a brain fart moment for me where I couldn't figure out how it was possible that I could have this color in this certain place. But yeah, it's a game that I definitely want to take out at Christmas, hopefully play with the whole family and have a good old laugh. It's that kind of like game show party feeling that you get when you play. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this out again very, very soon, maybe in the next week, and playing with a group of people who will probably end up arguing. Yeah, Boca, a 7 out of 10. Next up, Codenames. I'm not going to talk much about this one because this game is just the fantastic and perfect party game, even if you don't like words. This is just such a blast. Codenames, go and get it. This is a relatively new game for me, Dead Man's Draw. I've had it a little while and actually got to play it once, but I played it twice, and I played it last year probably with my son, who was then 6. And this is a push your luck game, and this is not an actual version I played. I played Captain Carcass, which is the French version. There you go. That's what it looks like. So it's a push your luck card game where you are drawing a card and then hopefully not having the same image already shown, and then you need to say stop at a certain time to collect those cards as treasure, and then they score at the end of the game. But each card has its own kind of power. Some of them will let you steal cards from another player, some of them will make you have to draw 2 extra cards, and so you have to take the consequences. Some of them save, so that there's lots of different powers in this small deck of cards. Now, this recent time that we played 4 players, adults, and we played with the player powers. And it felt lopsided, and it left me with a bitter taste in my mouth. And I do kind of recall playing it last year with my son and having a bit of fun without the powers. And so that may have an impact on my thoughts for the game. But again, it's a game that I need to play a few more times with different groups to see if it is good or bad. Now, it may feel a bit convoluted because there's all these different powers of these like 10 different cards, and remembering what they are can take a little while as you're playing. But I can see this being a good fun game. But at the moment, I'm kind of like, meh. But it's a game that's pretty fast. You're not going to play too long, 5, 10, 15 minutes probably, depending on how quick you pick up the powers. It's nicely presented. I like the artwork. I like the style of the game, especially the French Bombaics version. That's favoritism. That's the word. Moving on to Dominion, which is a game that I love. I like deck building games because I like shuffling cards and I like building. Building is always a fun element in a game because you walk away and you say, wow, I did that. Whereas other games where you just like racing is just like, wow, I run the fastest. Now, I played this with a friend who has just got into gaming and found it a little bit complicated for them to grasp the concept of what we were doing because they were used to other types of family games, and this kind of was different for them, getting used to a discard pile and a draw pile, and what happens when the draw pile is empty. You draw from the discard pile because you shuffle it and stuff, and then after a while it picked up and I started enjoying it again. It is a game that I just want to play and do the different combinations of cards which are on the table. Now, I played with the base game and not with any of the expansions. I got 2 other expansions which add lots more little nuances and powers and different ways of playing. But the base game, it works, and I would definitely recommend getting the base game if you're interested in this type of game, which is kind of themeless, but you're building a deck, which is your village, by using the cards that you have in your hand to buy other cards which add to your deck, and then you shuffle them, move, and you cycle. You also, it's useful to get rid of cards, so if there's ever a card which gives you the action to get rid of cards, it's always useful to thin out your deck and make your deck a bit more streamlined and faster. But sometimes that's not always possible because the cards on display are never going to be ones, and your deck's just going to clog up. It's a nice little thinker. It's like you are card counting in a way, but you're also planning as well. It's like, okay, I really should just go for those 2 types of card, or I should go for those 4 types of card. And so you're trying out these combos, and this card changes off for that card. And it makes for, those punch in the air moments where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this. And, oh, I've just drawn that up. Yes, bam, 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 bam. Sound like Trump there, didn't I? But a really enjoyable game. It works as 2-player, it works as 4-player. This is a game that I want to play a lot more. I don't think this game is going to leave my collection, even though there are probably better deck builders like Thunderstone and the slight smidgen in Lost Runes of Arlak. That little deck building in there is quite enjoyable as well. But this is like the kind of go-to deck building game for me. It's just so simple to get into, and then the combinations are just through the roof.
This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Now let's talk about Evergreen, which I finally got to play with 3 other players. We played a 4-player game. It was a new teach. So teaching it was a little bit difficult, but the players had experience playing photosynthesis, which is the same game, but this is a more constraint you're working on your biome, your ecosphere, and planting trees where you want and making which ones grow that you want. The only real interaction of this game is the card drafting. Drafting the card each round gives you the opportunity to do an action in that part of your planet, and it'll also give you a bonus power which you level up each time you take that bonus power. Eventually one card is going to be left behind. This card goes into like a little tableau which will show you end of game scoring for each of the sectors, which is a nice kind of end thought to your turn. It's like, which card do I want and which card do I want to be left by all the other players, so it scores me lots of points at the end of the game, or it points you in a direction of where to plant your trees and build your biggest trees, because at the end of the game you're going to score points depending on these cards which have been left over. There is a lot of puzzle solving and thinking and planning as you place out your trees in the different zones, and because each of the 4 phases you're going to score differently depending on where the sun is and in which trees the sun touches. Trees at different heights are going to get different points, and you're also going to get bonus points from your largest grouping, your largest forest, so to speak. And there are ways of planning out your forest, so there's like this kind of like push and pull. It's like, do I put my trees together so I get a large forest? But if I do that, they're not all going to get sunlight, and so I'm not going to get all the points that I want. And so it's like this constant, as I said, a push and pull between where do you put them, and do you want them close, do you want them spaced out, or do you do little clusters and then join them together at the last minute? But it is kind of a solo experience, pretty zen, pretty quiet and calm. As I said, the only interaction really is from the card drafting at the beginning. Yeah, it's a pretty good game. It's not going to please everybody, but at the moment it's a 7 out of the 10 for me. I've played it 6 times. As I said, most of those are solo. This is the first time as a 4-player, and it still feels the same solo as it does playing a 4-player game. Ghost Blitz is a family game which is a rapid thinking game where you have these 9 big chunky wooden components, objects of different colors, and then you reveal a card, and then that card will tell you which of those objects you should take, either directly or indirectly. Yes, sometimes the image will have a blue clock on it, so you take the blue clock, but sometimes it won't have any of the objects on it. Theoretically, you have to do reverse deduction, where it's like, okay, the objects that I have to take is not one of the colors shown, not one of the objects shown. And as you can see, there's only 3 objects, and then you have to do this kind of reverse deduction. It's like, okay, right, so that one is not represented at all. Ni color, ni shape. It's super fun, it's super rapid. You can basically just stop the game whenever you want, whenever you start getting boring. And again, there's this kind of little learning curve at the beginning for some players, which they do pick up eventually. As I said, it's the reverse deduction kind of thing. And it's funny, you pick up and you're sure that it's the torch, but it's not the torch. It's actually something else, and you're like kicking yourself as you lose a card from your score pile, so to speak. It's light, it's fun, it's very enjoyable. I do like playing Ghost Blitz and just getting it out for 5-10 minutes and having a blast with the family. Heat, pedal to the metal, it's a racing game done with cards. And as you can see, I've played 14 times and I've given it an 8 out of 10. And again, I'm starting to about this game. I normally play this game with my 7-year-old. That's the only person that probably plays this game. I've played it once with Guillaume, and that's about it. Well, twice with Guillaume. And it's a kind of, it's good to a point. The components are great. The artwork is great. The rule set is simple. But I just always I'm starting to, not always. I'm starting to have a sour taste in my mouth. When it's like, okay, I need to play cards which are going to keep me ahead of everybody else, and sometimes it's possible and sometimes it's not possible. With the stress cards, sometimes you'll draw something which will put you over, sometimes you'll push yourself a bit too far, and then you'll heat up your engine and end up getting more stress cards. Finding that delicate balance of which card should you play and when is kind of elusive to me. I think that's probably why. And again, I always play with the AI other cars, so as you can see, the other cars are controlled automatically, and that system is a very simple system to pick up and remember, and when you play, boom, no problems. But it's a case of it feels too yo-yo-y. When I race or against my son, we are like first, last, and it doesn't feel like a race. And I'm like, thematically, I'm starting to like, ugh. But at the same time, it is still fun. You know, you have a hand of cards, you have to manage them as best as you can to get yourself around the course and round the bends without sliding off. So you want to drive fast, but not too fast. And so it's like, and then there's the old card counting of like, okay, what have I played already? Okay, so if I play a stress card, I've got a good chance of drawing a 4 and then advancing 4. Well, I've played all my 4s, so if I do a stress card now, I'm going to take this corner very easily because I've only got 1s and 2s left in that deck. There's plenty of things to do in this game. I haven't really played much with the expansions. We actually did play with making our own car. So we drafted 3 cards into our decks. My son was able to get pretty far ahead of me, and I just kept coming off. I don't know. Maybe it was my bad selection which has left me with a sour taste in my mouth. But yeah, there's plenty of things to do in this game. There are weather conditions that you can add. There are press things that can be added as well. So the game itself, there's a lot in there. You're doing the same thing over and over again, and you can do like a tournament. So you're scoring points at the end of each race and then tallying them up for the next race and blah blah blah, which is great as well. That's something that I haven't tried, but would really like to try actually, even if it's just solo. But yeah, it's a great system, but I'm just like, there's something biting at me about it. There's something that's not right, if you know what I mean. It doesn't feel like I'm really using my brain and driving skills very wisely, you know. But hey ho, it just might be just I'm in a rut of bad luck when I play. Noah, which is a surprisingly fun small deck of cards card game, so to speak, where you are loading up animals onto one of 5 arcs, and you are trying to get rid of your hand of animals to win the round. And then all the other players with their hands of animals will lose points for different types of animals because they're pretty sad. But yes, on your turn, Noah will be on one of these 5 boats, and then you have to play a card. Now, sometimes you might be restricted to the card you can play because some boats will just be made up of male animals or female animals, or some boats might be a mix of both. So if a male and a female is played, the next card that's played needs to be a male, and then the next card after that needs to be a female. Each boat has its own weight limit, and each animal has its own weight. And what you don't want to do is play a card or be forced to play a card which is going to make the boat heavy, because then you're going to collect all the animals from that boat and have to load it up again. If you get it perfect, brilliant, that boat empties and sails off, you place another boat out, and then you carry on playing and you play immediately another card. So the programmation of where Noah goes is on the card that you play. It'll either be to a boat adjacent or one diagonal left or right. So you're given the chance to screw over other players if you know what they got in their hand. And there are certain animals which will allow you to look at their hand and go, you've got only females. I'm going to put you on a male boat. And you'll be screwed. And then you won't have nothing to do apart from take all those male cards off. And then you got a bigger hand of cards. Played this 4-player and it felt great. This is a great adult game and kid game. Where it feels like a nice kind of family kind of card game. The artwork is nice. Comes in a tin box, not anymore. But yeah, really enjoyed this game. Hence the 8 score that I've given it. And yeah, this is a game that I definitely would like to play a bit more of as a kind of, one of those kind of like 10-15 minutes. Well, it's not really 10-15 minutes because you're going to be playing for several rounds and then scoring and then playing another round. I think you play 3 rounds. So when 3 times someone has removed their hand of cards, that's it. Game over. Yes, I did give it an 8. Yeah. It's a Bruno Catala as well. There you go. Now, Pluckin Pairs, which in French is actually called Qui perd gagne, which is the motto who dares wins, or who pairs wins, which I prefer actually than Pluckin Pairs. But yeah, this is a party style game, and I played this as part of teaching English to a couple of young kids who are doing English at the moment in their school. I've played this 8 times. It's a party style game, but again, I used it this time as a kind of educational tool to get the kids to talk to me about why they made the connections. And that's what this game is about. It's about making connections and then having a good laugh. So in this party style game, 11 images will be placed out. You'll have a deck of cards which has 1 to 11 written on them, and you're basically going to be putting these into little piles. And then you're going to be seeing who thinks like you, who pairs up the same way as what you do. And for each person that does, you're going to get points. So the more people that have the same thinking and chaining images together, the more points you're going to get. And you're going to do this 4 times. Well, in our French version it's 4 times, but in this version it's only twice. Oh, but anyway, that's where the fun of this game is. It's like the connections that people make. They connect this to that because of this. And some of them can be, pretty straightforward. Those 2 objects are both made of wood, or both of those have a blue sky in the background. But some of them can be really, really bizarre. And of course, there will be the occasional person which will say, well, there was nothing else to pair it with, so I had to put them together to make a pair. This is a very good party game. I think it's an underrated party game. It may sound stupid, but playing up to 8 people, again, it's that quiz show feeling that I get when I'm playing it. I feel like I'm on a quiz show and I'm against the clock and the audience is looking at me and the pressure is on to get it right. And yeah, this is a great party game. I really enjoy this one. There you go, there's my version. 4 rounds on the score pad there. But yeah, this is a great party game. I'm looking forward to playing this at Christmas. I'm going to be taking this to the Christmas parties and letting rip. So Railroad Ink, the shiny yellow edition. I've played 8 times, but I've got the other editions, and so the log plays for those are somewhere else. So I've probably played about 30 times this game with all its different iterations, and I played this with my 7-year-old, and as you can see, it's a 9 out of 10 because it's a roll and write that I actually adore. There's a lot of roll and writes are pretty dull and boring and are themeless, and you don't feel like you do anything apart from ticking off boxes, whereas this is a drawing building game where you roll the dice and whatever the results are, you draw them onto your board, and you're making railway connections and road connections to stations across your board to try and accumulate as many points as possible. Yes, it can be a bit messy with the pens, and you draw on the table accidentally and then you get smudges on your hand where you're drawing and everything, and it is just a tiny bit too small to draw the little dots in the middle of the road, but hey ho, you don't have to do it as long as you draw something which represents what it is. So yeah, I played this with my 7-year-old because he's played it before and he's also played the online app, and I thought, well, let's just play the game. And so we added in one of the expansions from this edition, which is the cactuses, and which changed the gameplay a little bit. Yeah, this is a kind of you're working in your corner type of game, and you're trying to get the best point score out of the results that you have. But it works. I enjoy it. I enjoy that feeling of construction and placing things in the right place and going, yeah, I should do that there, and then I could use this. And there's lots of different other things that you can do, so like get the bonuses from building a station in a town in this version. In the first 2 versions, there was not that. There's also the possibility of doing a dice result twice if you build in a factory space, which adds another layer of complexity, but at the same time, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. But yeah, I just really enjoy this game. It just, roll and writes are, this is fun because I feel like I built something. This and Era are probably the best roll and build games out there. And there's a lot in this box. There's these different challenge cards, so you can shuffle them up and draw out 3, and then that gives you another way of scoring. There's 2 little expansions with 4 extra dice, which you can play all together or just one at a time, which add a lot of. And then you got all the different coloured versions, plus all the little mini expansion packs. This game is really enjoyable if you like working in your own little corner and you like roll and writes or roll and builds. Fantastic game, very short to play, 15 minutes easily, But it's a pleasurable 15 minutes. And then you just wipe it all off and then you start again. Nearly done. This is Refuge, which is the new game from Bombayx, who I demoed this game a lot for at Essen Spiel, so you can try and put that into whatever context you wish. This is a bag building game, a kind of tranquil bag building game, where you are making a path away from your house into the forest and enjoying the walk and seeing these wonderful little wildlife animals, and it warms your heart. But there's a looming storm coming, and eventually the storm will hit, and if you're outside in the rain, it's not going to be too good for you. If you're inside resting by the fire after your wonderful walk, you're going to be okay and you're going to profit from that. Refuge plays over 5 rounds, so you're going to go on 5 little walks, and this is a kind of a push your luck game where in your bag you'll have some tiles. You'll put your hand in, you'll either put 2 tiles in your hand, draw them out, and then everybody reveals at the same time, meaning that you're going to continue walking and you've got these 2 paths to choose from. You're going to go that way or you're going to go that way. Each tile will either give you boots, which is a currency to buy more tiles to add to your bag. Some of them are points, some of them are powers, like you can play a second tile, or you get, if there's a lot of sunshine come out already, you can get extra points or you can get extra currency, whatever. So there are little powers here and there. And so basically, yeah, once you've chosen a path, you put that tile down, the other tile goes in your bag, you then spend your currency to add a new tile to your bag. Or if you don't like the fact that it's probably going to rain soon, you can always pull out your little wooden meeple house, and then you can say, I'm going home. And then if you look at your path and how far you've walked and you've met animals, you're going to get points for those animals. And then you also get to bin one of those tiles that you've played, and so it's removed from your bag entirely. The ones you start with are pretty weak, the ones you buy, very powerful. There are 24 different extra tiles that you can buy, but you're only going to play with 8 of them each turn. The game comes with 3 setups for each of those. So there's a little bit of replayability, but the fun of the game is pushing your luck and walking as far as you can to get as many points as you can before it rains. You may be saying, well, when's it going to rain? Well, basically it will rain possibly at the end of every turn, because you're going to be revealing a weather tile, and this might be sun or it might be storm is coming, and once X amount of storms are out, that's when it tumbles. But to add to that, each player also has 2 of those tiles in their bag. If they draw one, it needs to be added immediately. So the storm might come in pretty quickly on a round if, say, 2 players grab both those tiles at the same time, and then there's instantly 4 storms added to the track. It's a nice, relaxing, cool, push your luck game with this really nice theme of going for a walk without getting wet. I kind of liked it. I've played it once. I've taught it at bucket loads, but I've played it once and I enjoyed it. It's not too heavy. It's not too. There's no complicated rules. It's very easy to get into. And I'm just worried about the tiles possibly over time becoming a bit faded and a bit damaged, as they're going to be handled a lot, much like my Carcassonne tiles did. Also, another tool that I used for teaching English was the game Timeline. I've used Cardline in the past to do animals, but I thought let's try Timeline, which is the same concept of getting rid of all your cards but placing them in a chronological order in this ever-growing timeline of cards which other players are adding. This was the Diversity edition, which had a bit of history, a bit of culture, everything kind of like discoveries all mixed in, because I'm playing with younger kids, so it kind of give them a chance to, number one, explain what they had in their card, and then talk about when it happened, or if it's something which interests them. Timeline is a game that I love. It's very simple to play, very easy to get into. Even my father-in-law, who's not a gamer, will play this because he likes history and he has a memory incredible, so he'll play it and win. This is something that he's good at because he remembers when this happened and when that happened. You get a nice little clue from the artwork. He said, "Bidding." You get a clue from the artwork on as well, kind of like what kind of era this thing was. Again, I've played this one 7 times, but I've got a lot of different versions of the game, and so I've logged the different plays for that. Maybe one day I'll just bundle them all together, mix the cards up, and just go boom. Epic timeline. Shadows over Camelot, which is a trick-taking game, and I'm finally getting to play it. This is my third play of the game, and it's the best experience that I've had playing the game. Played 4 players, 4 adults, and in the game you're picking a character from the King Arthur mythology and their sidekick. Each of them have their own powers, and powers that get unlocked when they start to lose life points. And that's the nice thing about this game, is it has a bit of a theme. You're having a tournament, you're jousting against each other. So your cards are your attacks. So if you are the weakest attack, you are going to win the hand, which will lose you life points at the end of the hand. As I said, each player will have their own individual power, which will be activated at certain times in the game or at certain points when they lose their life points, and each card is interesting. After the first round, these godsends will come into play, which are kind of like helpers for those who are struggling. So the player who has the least amount of life points will have the ability to have a godsend, which is another additional power that they can play constantly, or a one-shot power during the next round. It's a kind of a catch-up mechanism, and it works. It does work. I mean, the game doesn't go on forever and ever, and your life points will be whittled down pretty quickly because players will gang up on each other. It's like a case of, okay, you know what, I don't like you, I'm going to play my Merlin on you. And a Merlin's like a kind of like a wild, but you tell the players what color and what number it is, or what card it is, if it's a sword or an arrow or one of the other 2 types of cards. And these are big point deductors, these Merlin cards. They will lose you 25 life points, whereas a normal card will lose you 5, and a poisoned card will lose you 10. So this is a good way to bring down that player who has the most hit points pretty quickly. And the game doesn't struggle too much when you teach it. There is a little bit of a learning curve. If you've played trick-taking games, there's just a tiny bit different about this one. The cards are massive, the artwork fits the theme, and it is a really good game, and it's something that I would like to play more regularly, more than a Great Dalmuti. This is a good kind of solid thematic-ish trick-taking game, and it works for me. I enjoyed it very much. As I said, I would like to play it more. 3 times is not enough. I would like to play it, at least twice a month or so. And I'm not going to say any more. That is the tournament at Camelot. Finally, another game which I received from the publisher called WolfWalkers My Story, which is a 2-player abstract game based on the animated film called The WolfWalkers. Now, I'm sure if you've watched the film, you will probably feel the theme of the game while you're playing it, but for me, it was just an abstract game. Basically, there's a deck of cards. These cards are double-sided. They either have a side which has the artwork from the film plus some icons, and on the other side they have a formation for these icons. So basically, you're going to build this grid, this 5-5-5 grid, by drafting cards from a selection of 6. 2 of them will be objectives, and 4 of them will just be the icons in the artwork. Again, when you build, it needs to be adjacent to your starting card, and then, as I said, these formation cards, these scoring cards, you will need to place them into your formation, which one takes up a space of maybe a point scoring card, but it also is a point scoring card itself because it gives you the power to use the icons to score points. So for example, if you need 3 soldiers in a row, you take that card and then you start putting 3 soldiers in a row, left, horizontal, vertically, however. Again, you might have to have an L-shaped combination of family, wolf and soldier. And then there's the other one, which is for each tree in this line to this card, horizontal and vertically to this card, will score you X amount of points. And that's the game. It's very, very simple. It's a nice little brain burner where you are planning out how to lay these cards out, but also looking at what's in the pool to draft from and thinking, okay, right, do I want to screw my opponent over, or do I want to try and get myself some points? It's relaxed, it's zen. It probably takes about 10 to 15 minutes to build your grid of 5x5. I really like it. I appreciate that it's a film tie-in IP, but that doesn't mean anything to me. It's a nice kind of abstract game. There are some variations in there as well, so you can chop and change it up a little bit. Some powers. But I didn't play with them, just played the base game. The base game is good. It's solid 2-player, back and forth, drafting and trying to maximize your score on your side of your grid. Well, your grid. You're playing on your own individual 5x5. Great. So there you have it. There's another month of games that I've played. Hopefully this video has helped you make a decision, or will contribute to making a decision whether a game is good for you or not. And if it has, just give this video a little like. You don't have to subscribe, but if you want to, you can do. I'm going to be doing this every month, and as I said, I'm going to be doing another video after the Christmas New Year period and talk about all the games that I played then, because probably January will be dry. It will be a quiet January probably, where I'll be playing solo a bit on some games, but there you can catch up on whether I think a game has longevity or not, or what new games I got for Christmas, if any. So thanks for watching. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'll just say ciao for now. Remember to please play nicely with each other.
Just sitting at the table next to Felicia would be quite nice. Wouldn't it be good? I got some board games.